Hello, I'm Shelley Swanlund, Vice President, Business Banking at CIBC. And I'm here today with Trevor Goff, Managing Director and Head of Mid-Market Investment Bank at CIBC. And we're here to talk to you about supporting business owners in the final stage of their business life, transitioning their business. So, Trevor, thank you for coming and being here with us today.
Hello.
So, regardless of what options and transition options business owners consider, there's always a question they have about the valuation of their business, what it's worth, and what amount would be sufficient for them to sell and be able to retire on. Determining fair market value, however, I assume is quite difficult. And I'm sure you get this question all the time. How do you respond to it?
It's true, we do get this question a lot. It is one of the first things we get asked as to what you think my company is worth.
Sure.
It's true to say that a company's value is what a buyer is willing to pay for that business. I look at it as there's a number of aspects that really drive the company's value. And I look at it in three ways. There's specific to the company, there is the marketplace, and also there is the way that the actual sale process is run will drive different valuation for a business. So if I think of the company first, specific to the company, a buyer is buying the future profit stream of a business. So all of the aspects that drive the value of that particular company are really dependent on how that impacts the future profit stream of the company. So it can be things like the predictability of the revenue stream. So how recurring is that revenue stream? Is there a lot of repeat business, repeat customers? That's very helpful. The diversity of the customer base. When businesses are very dependent on 2, 3, 4 customers, that makes a company very risky. And so the more diverse a customer base a company has is very helpful in building the value of that business.
Makes sense.
Another area is just what's unique about a company. Whenever we meet a business, we ask them, what is it that you do that's very different to everyone else? Buyers will really value uniqueness. And along with that is barriers to entry. A buyer is buying the future, and they want to know that this business is going to exist in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years plus. And so the barriers to entry around that are very helpful at creating value. The quality of the management team is very helpful. Is it the management team that have the relationships with the customers that are making the decisions, or is it the business owner? Because if it's the business owner, that's a real issue in terms of transferring that value to a buyer. A buyer is not willing to pay as much for a business if a lot of the value, the goodwill in the company is kept with
losing one of the key assets.
You are, and we see that time and time again. What investment there is in the business? Businesses that have a need for more capital expenditure. So you think of manufacturing businesses where there's plant, equipment, machinery. They have to spend money every year to stand still, compared to perhaps service-based companies where they're more people-based businesses. And we find that valuations for service-based companies, for example, tend to be higher than manufacturing because of the investment. It's an impact of cash flow of the business. So those are a number of ways that are very specific to the company that really drives the value. The second area that we look at is more to do with the market. And the market is a couple of things. There's the macro, what's going on in the broader sense, the availability of credit, the public markets, customer confidence. All of those things will impact on how much buyers are willing to pay for a business. But there's the micro, which is more specific to that sector that the company is in. To the extent that that sector is growing, that the pie is just growing, or people are willing to pay more for that. I think of healthcare services, the aging population. It's very easy to convince people that that pie is going to grow. And then there are other things specific with the sector that they're in, if there's consolidation in that sector. To the extent that there are buyers consolidating, making acquisitions, that may well be a good time to be a seller.
I assume geographical coverage, international would also have an impact on that when you think about the marketplace?
Yes, we find that, that the companies that we sell, probably 2/3 of the buyers are Canadian, and then 1/3 would be US and international. Okay. We can get the attention of international buyers. The foreign exchange right now is very helpful in that, and yes, we've certainly heard that and starting to see that. But we find that the things that are very specific to that company really matter. Okay. The final area I would say is just the way that the sale process is run. You know, many owners that we meet react to a buyer knocking on the door, and so there will hold discussions with that one buyer. Okay. To have discussions with one buyer is very restrictive. We find that value is increased if you can attract multiple buyers to the table, get them to bid at the same time, and get that competitive tension. That is very helpful, and it's human nature. Human nature is that if you really want something and there's a chance you might not get it, you're willing to pay more for it. And we find time and again, running a formal process, getting multiple players to the table at the same time is very helpful at really lifting the value of a business.
Great. Thank you very much. I found that really interesting. Trevor Goff, Managing Director and Head of Mid-Market Investment Bank at CIBC.